I went back to Leicester to ask questions about living expenses and life satisfaction to Elly and Casey. Obviously, I already lived there for 6 years, but I was wondering if they could change my mind about this city and whether I should settle down in Leicester in the near future. Before meeting my interviewee, I decided to buy a few things from the city centre of Leicester, specifically at the Very Bazaar, which is one of my favourite shops and places to go to whenever I'm in town. And by the way, right now I'm in New Walk, which is one of the most beautiful and elegant pathways here in Leicester. My favourite time to be here is early in the morning, in the evening and in autumn. This is the place I was talking about, the Very Bazaar. I'm looking for ancient sticks, but I think there are cheaper ones at Leicester Market. I ended up buying 2 of these for the total of £150. She's Elly and...
Hello.
How long have you been living in Leicester?
It's about 3 years.
And why this city?
To be totally honest, because I didn't know what to do after uni and my boyfriend got a master's at the university. I was like, well, might as well come join. Got nothing better to do.
Do you enjoy Leicester?
I do. I think it either has a bad reputation or it has no reputation at all. I think a lot of people know absolutely nothing about Leicester and it's a real shame because it is such a nice place and it's got the elements like the diversity of a big city, but with the like coziness and like community of a small place. And it's really nice, and the city itself is really nice. Where we're at right now is really nice.
So you said you studied at University of York, and what did you study?
I studied linguistics.
And did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. It was a really interesting course. I was never bored of my degree, which I think some people sometimes go through and they like might hate something. It was all very interesting.
And how's York like? Because I've never been to York.
York is lovely. It is kind of the total opposite of Leicester. It is very small. It's very white middle class.
Okay.
You only see one type of person, which is not that good, I would say. The lack of diversity, I think a lot of people that go to York, I think, come from similar places, so places that are also almost entirely white middle class. Maybe it's like a comfort thing that you know a certain way of living or a certain type of people, and then you go and you carry on with the same demographic, and I think it's quite detrimental to the way that you are to people of other cultures, other races and everything. And I think that, because where I'm from was exactly the same, and so I never really experienced a lot of other people from other nationalities. Leicester obviously is
multicultural,
very multicultural in such a good way. I love that. When I walk into work in the morning, you hear about 10 different languages on the way in. It makes me feel I'm a very small fish in a very big pond, and it's kind of nice to feel that way. I think it's kind of reassuring that like the world is bigger. Like my parents are people that have grown up in a very, very white middle class society, and their attitudes are different for that reason. And because I've come to Leicester so young, I think it's shaped me into, because seeing people's all different cultures, it's made me more into the person that I think I want to be.
Do you mind sharing your living expenses here in Leicester?
Not at all. I'm actually paying a mortgage rather than renting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's actually quite similar. So when I was renting in Leicester for a year, it was about £670 a month. That was for a 2-bed house for me and my boyfriend and our cat. And now we're paying a mortgage on exactly the same type of property, and it's £675 a month. so it's the same.
Yeah. What about grocery?
I think we spend about £50 a week on food shopping. That does include like things for the cat food, cat litter and stuff. So I'd like to say that it was a bit cheaper, but it probably wouldn't be, because we're also vegan, and we do quite like, you know, buying the nice fake meats and all that stuff, which can be a little expensive.
And do you buy your food from Tesco, Lidl?
Morrison's, almost entirely, although as much as we can / remember, we do try and buy from the zero waste shop in the centre of town, which sometimes does work out cheaper actually.
Any idea of how much you spend on leisure, like even eating out, delivery, gym, taking coffee?
Yeah, I give myself £200 a month for that stuff. That's for like buying clothes, buying coffees, buying takeaway, stuff like that. Most of that goes on clothes. So I have actually tried to stop myself.
You're a writer, and how did you find this job in Leicester?
I had been working for a very small publication based out of the town that I'm originally from, and had done an internship there between my second and third years of university, and then during my third year I carried on part-time. So I'd applied to there was 2 publishing houses in Leicester that I applied to a couple, and I got the job at the one I'm currently at. I think I just found it on their website. I think the year before coming to Leicester, I had messaged them, I'd emailed them about work experience, and then they said, oh, we're actually hiring and I think you might be quite a good fit. I'd sent them my CV for the work experience purposes, and they were like, would you be happy to come in for an interview? And I was like, yeah, definitely.
Do you enjoy your role?
I do. It's just generally quite an enjoyable job. I like my colleagues. It's a small company, which is always nice because you get to know everyone in the company quite well.
How easy is it to find jobs here in Leicester?
I think I was quite fortunate when I moved here because I didn't have a job for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I first got a job in a cafe, and then got a job in a shoe shop, and then was there for a month, and in that time then got the job that I'm currently working in. At that time it was quite easy. I couldn't vouch for what the job market's like now. I think it's probably a very difficult time everywhere in the country to get a job now.
Do you think Leicester is a city full of opportunities, especially for young people, or not?
I think that Leicester has historically been a very historical place, built on industry, and I think it was originally like a shoe making area. Generation Z and millennials don't really, at least from my understanding, want to be working in factories or warehouses. I think we're quite an ambitious generation, so I think it's hard to say.
Do you have any suggestions on how to find jobs here in Leicester?
If you're looking for temporary jobs like maybe retail or in hospitality, or things that are a little more like 0 hours, more flexible working, your best bet is to just look around, literally look for the signs in the windows. If you're looking for more office-based, permanent, full-time, those kind of jobs, the job sites like Indeed, things like that, I think are a good place to start. You can put in your keywords, look what you're aiming for, and sign up for email notifications, things like that. You just got to be patient. I think you're not going to find the thing you're looking for straight away. You've got to trawl, you've got to put the time in. But if you do know what you're looking for as well, and like you look at the companies that are doing those things or offering those kind of jobs, there's never any harm in sending an email, reaching out to some other company. Ask for work experience as well. If you're willing to work for free, you're definitely going to be looked on well, and then you can kind of get your foot in the door at least, and then if you could put off a good impression, then the future looks hopeful.
Do you have any favorite place to eat here in Leicester?
There's a place called The Tree, used to be called The Orange Tree. It's like a casual bar restaurant place. There's also a really good curry house called Herb. I think it's entirely vegetarian. And there's another one called Prana, which is an entirely vegan restaurant. Yeah, I think those are probably the top 3.
Do you have a favorite place to hang out here in Leicester?
I absolutely love New Walk, but it's not really a place to hang out. I would say it's lovely to walk to the place that you're going to hang out. There's a lovely little square in the city called St. Martin's Square, which has some nice restaurants and cafes like onto it. It's very quaint and sweet. And also, basically all the parks in the city are lovely. They are exceptionally clean. There's always a really nice atmosphere, especially when it's all sunny and lovely. Victoria Park and Abbey Park especially.
Safest area to live in Leicester, and do you feel safe in Leicester?
Where I currently live, which is Clarendon Park, it's a really nice community of people. It's kind of like a very small town outside the city. It's got its own high street called Queen's Road. It's a lot of families, it's a lot of students. It's really nice, and yeah, I think I do feel safe there. You do get noisy students, but you get noisy students everywhere.
Are you happy here in Leicester?
Yeah, I think so. It has so much to offer.
Pros and cons of living in Leicester.
Pros, it's the centre of the country, which is great. It's easy to get to the north, it's easy to get to the south. Great transportation links. There's great shopping. There's great food. There are really lovely green spaces, even though it's quite an urban city. And it's like 10 minutes to the countryside. Cons, there's quite a lot of homelessness and poverty. That is kind of something you get with living in any city, but I think, at least from my understanding, Leicester is kind of high up on that regard.
Would you suggest people to live in York or Leicester?
I think Leicester would be better, definitely. There's more there. It's a bigger city, there's more to do. York, to my knowledge, doesn't have those things. When I was at uni there, you have a couple of nightclubs, you have a couple of big shops, and everything else is kind of more catered to a 50-year-old woman who wants to go to lunch with her best friends, and that is lovely, but I don't think it's the best for young people. I think that's more of a place for the older generation, I would say.
You obviously went through the process of buying a house. What's your suggestion for me or for anyone else out there to buy a house here in Leicester?
I think it's probably the same as any other place. You know, there's a certain process you go through. Rightmove is a great place to start, or just any estate agents. Look, if you're walking around the city, there's a lot of estate agents. For me, I knew exactly the area I wanted to live in, and I had quite a specific idea in mind of the house that we were looking for, so the process didn't take very long. Doing your research about mortgages, it's such an adult thing to do, such a grown-up thing to do, but it's not actually as complicated as you think it is. When you actually start looking at it, it's just like paying rent.
As a writer, what's your typical working day?
In the morning, I kind of do the smaller projects, answering emails, doing any urgent requests that we've had from the day before. We work with a lot of global clients, so often, like when I clock off the day before, I've got a lot of to do over that period of time. And in the afternoon, I spend doing those bigger projects, often for the publications that we actually work on, like magazines and things like that. So yeah, it's a nice mix of the two.
Is there any specific topic that you're required to write?
We do 3 publications. The one that I'm focused on is about using technology in businesses, so how businesses are using various technology to improve things to help their customers.
Is there anything else you do apart from writing?
Basically, my job is writing, so but to do the writing, often I have to interview a lot of clients. We interview partners, we interview CEOs and things like that, and a lot of the partners that we work with are based in all over the world. So especially during the pandemic, I've had the opportunity to talk to people all over the world, finding out how different countries are dealing with the pandemic and things like that, which has been really interesting.
It's time to interview my next interviewee. Her name is Casey. She studied at the Montfort University, so the interview is going to be interesting. How long have you been living in Leicester and why this city?
So I've been living in Leicester since 2014, so that's about 7 years now. And I originally chose Leicester just because it was a good uni, had a good like town vibe to it, not too big. And then once I graduated, all my friends stayed, so I decided to stay, and yeah, so here I am.
Can I ask your living expenses such as rent, grocery, transportation, leisure?
My rent is £360 a month, and then bills after that is about £250-ish. Travel is about £18 a week on the bus. Groceries like £25 a week. It's not too much because I just live by myself. And leisure, it's not a lot at the moment because the pubs are closed, but once they're open,
it's gonna party really hard.
Yeah.
I remember you saying you studied at DMU and that you studied journalism. How was your experience? And 3 things you wish you knew before starting uni.
Yeah, so I studied creative writing and journalism for my undergrad, and then I did investigative journalism for my master's. I found the experience really great. That was the reason I chose to study here. I had a good feeling about all the lecturers. They were all really nice, really welcoming. 3 things I wished before. I think I'd wish I'd kind of looked up the area just a bit more. I only came to visit like a couple of times. I think I wish I'd maybe looked different flats like for my first year. I did like where I was, but I could have like browsed a bit more. I wish maybe I'd joined more societies in uni, I would say.
How's the teaching quality here at DMU?
The teaching quality is really good. I never had any problems with my field. They really care about their students, so they're willing to like put everything into it. In terms of like grading and stuff, it was always done on time and always to a really good standard.
The last time I met you, you said you were looking for a job, and now 1 year later, I'm going to ask you if you found one. Like, are you currently working, and if so, what are you doing? Are you enjoying it?
I think last time I saw you, I was working at a restaurant, so that was just a job like for the time being. So now I'm currently working in a dental practice, so I'm a patient care coordinator. I've already been there for like 2 weeks, but I really like it. Everyone's really nice.
What's your typical day as a patient care coordinator?
So a lot of the time I'm answering phone calls of patients who have arrived, they're waiting outside, so I just have to like get them in, take their temperatures, that sort of thing, and log that, run them through the COVID questions. It's also a lot of rebooking appointments, like checking in on patients, taking payments, having a look on our social media pages, see what we need to post, that sort of thing.
Would you say there are plenty of opportunities and jobs for young people here in Leicester?
I would say certainly as a student there's lots of opportunity. There's loads of like independent shops that always look for like part-time students, so as a student there's tons. Professionally, honestly depends what your field is. In terms of media, maybe not in the city of Leicester, but you can travel to Birmingham, there's like a big media hub there. I would say there are job opportunities, but again you just have to factor in that it is a small city, so there's not going to be as much as there would be in like London, Manchester or Birmingham. I would say if you're looking for a part-time job and you're a student, look for uni temps, because they're going to be really generous about working around your schedule, because they're within the uni, they pay well and it looks good in your CV, and it's local, it's right on campus.
What's your favourite place to hang out here in Leicester?
Probably Abbey Park. If we're going like inside a pub or something, I'd say Orange Tree or the Cookie.
Safest area to live in Leicester, and do you feel safe?
Probably maybe Clarendon Park. I currently live in the city centre and I feel completely safe. I've never felt unsafe in the city.
Have you ever thought of living somewhere else?
So I'm from Kent, I'm from the southeast, so I have thought about moving back there because it's like near the coast and being near beaches. But alternatively, I've definitely thought about moving like further up north, Manchester, Leeds. They're like my two options, either up or down.
So you're from Kent? Make a comparison between Kent and Leicester.
Where I'm from in Kent is called Maidstone, so that's just like a small town. Leicester's a city, we've got more stuff. I love Maidstone because it's like my home still, but there's just not enough like places to go, places to eat, that sort of thing, and I don't really have like a social life back there anymore. I do still love it, but I prefer Leicester to live full time. Yeah.
I'm done with the interviews. I'm now going to Allendale Road, which is a lovely and hidden area in Leicester, and I'm going there to cut my hair. I always had short hair. I can't wait to have my old hairstyle back. The place where I usually cut my hair is George Hairdressing. Are you ready to see my haircut? Well, it's time. Ta-da! I know, I look good. We are at Bradgate Park, and my aim is to go all the way up there where the castle is and enjoy Leicester, that's the whole Leicester, from above. Should I live here in Leicester? My answer is no. Although there are many beautiful and interesting places in Leicester, I don't feel a sense of belonging. I don't see myself living here for the rest of my life. There are a few things that I dislike about this city that make me not want to live here. Having said that, I feel like I'm going to end up here even though I don't want to, and that's because my parents are here and it's going to be easier for me to live near them. Anyway, my exploration continues, so I'm going to be making, hopefully if everything goes well and as planned, more videos around the UK and more episodes of Should I Live In. I'm going home now. Let me know what you think about this video, and as always, take care and see you all in the next video.